Hello and welcome to the first episode of Earthworks Hub. I'm your host, Ivan Orlovic, and I'm really happy to finally get this thing kicked off. I've been working on it for a while, but as usual, things keep coming up and you keep delaying it and saying, next week. But no, I've pulled the trigger and I'm doing it. There's a couple of things I want to talk about today. The first one being what the podcast is about, and then the second one will be to introduce myself. So similar to most podcasts, I'm going to be interviewing guests that are in the industry so that we can share their experiences, learn from those things, take them back and apply them to our own businesses or our own workplaces. And this podcast is not just for people with a business in Earthworks. It can be anyone that's working in the field. So, if you're a labourer, a truck driver, a machine operator, an estimator for a civil company. So anyone that's in the field will benefit from this podcast. Yeah, so it's a new thing for me, so I'll be learning as I go. I know they've got some of these Earthworks podcasts already in the States and in Canada, and hopefully I can kick this off in Australia for us. So, yeah, that's basically the podcast. There's going to be a website associated with this called earthworkshub.com.au. That's under construction, and I'll have all the podcast information on there, as well as some other information relating to our industry. I'd like to thank Melbourne Tractors for sponsoring this episode. They've obviously kitted me up. They are a Cobalco dealer. They also have ASV, New Holland, and they also sell Chem-built attachments and things. But they are based in Victoria and Queensland. They've been around for a long time. I actually bought my first excavator from them from their Ballarat branch, and I've been dealing with them ever since. So a really great company to deal with, and I just want to say thank you again. So now to talk a little bit about myself. So I own Eagle One Industries, which is an excavation contracting company. So we do anything from digging trenches for plumbers and electricians to helping concreters prepare for their slabs and bases, digging out swimming pools, backfilling swimming pools, doing retaining walls, landscaping, streetscapes, hardscapes, doing basement digs, doing civil works. I wasn't always in the earthworks industry. Before I started the business, I actually was in the corporate world. I went to uni after high school, did a business management degree, got myself a job with a manufacturing company, stayed there for 11 years, working my way through the ranks. But I always had this urge to start my own business and to work with heavy machinery. I had some relatives that were in that field, and it just excited me a bit more. So I slowly started working with them on weekends, asking them if I can have a go in their machines. Went and got my tickets, got my licenses, and then finally got to a point where they said, you know what, you're good enough to probably go out on your own. So as I said earlier, I went to Ballarat Tractors, bought my first machine, started doing some weekend work, and then once I had enough customers to sort of keep me going, I decided to step out of the corporate world and just hit the business. As most of us in this field know, it's a very tough industry, and it can be a roller coaster. There's days where you come home and you just go, that's it, I'm packing it in, throw the keys on the table, I'm selling everything, I'm all done. And then a few days later, you're back on the internet looking at buying machines and expanding the business and going big. And I don't think I'm the only one that says that, because I do have a lot of friends in the industry, and we always have our little sessions and talk about this, which is why we need something like this podcast, so that we can see that we're all in the same boat, and then we can work out ways to improve that, And it hasn't been an easy ride. I've had machines stolen. I've had attachments taken from sites. I've had to chase customers for money, especially when you've got like a lot of little customers. There's some big overheads. You were talking about buying machines over 200,000, 300,000. 1 minute you'll be flat out. Can't keep up with work. The next minute you've got no work. Sometimes you can't plan what you've got ahead for the week. You're just going day by day. You get last minute cancellations. I've had issues where I've underquoted jobs, so you go there and you think it's going to be, you're going to be doing X and Y, and then you get there and the next minute you're doing something else and you've lost money, or you haven't estimated exactly how much soil's coming out, you haven't allowed for something. And there's been a lot of times where I've actually ended up working for free. I call those voluntary days. And I think everyone experiences it. I've got a lot of friends that are in the field, and we all go through the same thing. There's a lot of good things that have come out of this business. I've now learned to deal with surveyors, councils, building inspectors, plumbers, concreters, all types of trades, builders, developers, you name it, civil engineers. So, I've got to mingle with a lot of different people. Whereas before I'd be sitting in the same office all the time or the same factory. So I also get to work in different places. I could be at one location for a week, and then I could be at another one for a day, and then another one for 6 months. And we could be working, somewhere out in the country, somewhere in the city, in someone's backyard, and you're not always just in one place. So I actually see that as a good thing. I got to learn how to read plans properly. I got to learn negotiation skills, negotiating with customers, doing quotations, estimating jobs. I also picked up mechanical skills. I did always toy around with cars and things, but with the machinery itself, in the beginning, I couldn't afford to pay mechanics all the time. So I learned to do, oil filter changes and servicing myself. And then if it was something a bit more difficult, then I obviously had to get a mechanic. But in the end, you can love this industry or you can hate it. I still love it. I'm actively working in the industry, constantly learning. There's a lot of times where I look around and see people doing something and say, that's how I should be doing it. This is a bit quicker. Okay, so we've come to the end of the podcast. Thank you for listening. Thank you to our sponsors. I'm looking forward to interviewing our guests on the next few episodes. If you want to become a guest, or if you've got some questions you want us to answer, hit me up. If you have an idea or a suggestion for this podcast, also hit me up. All my details will be in the description. And spread the word. Let's help each other, make our lives easier. Thank you for listening. Hello and welcome to the first episode. I'm your host, Ivan Orlovic. I'm really... Fucking hell. Hello and welcome. Episode. I'm your host, Ivan Orlovic. I'm really... Fucking hell. As much as I hate it, I still love it. It's one of those industries, for fuck's sake.